everyone, you're watching VGO 40 and this is VGO Girl, and today we are looking at World of Kings and we're looking at the new Cyber Library dungeon. Now, when looking at this dungeon, it really wasn't actually all that difficult. You had to focus on the second boss is really, I think, the most challenging, so I'll spend a little more time on that one and just kind of skim through the others. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward and skip some of the mobs leading up to the first boss. So here we are at the first boss. Now, the thing about tanking him that's a little bit more difficult is that he doesn't really move very well because he's he's got a ranged weapon, so it's kind of difficult to position him too much. However, you really don't need to move him, so just really on this boss, avoid the AoEs. There is a section, probably the only noteworthy one, where he targets the furthest player and then he'll attack them. For that, I found it easier as a tank to just move back to be the furthest player. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with some of the DPS or something getting hit, and the healer just has to work a little bit harder. It's really not that big of a deal, so I'm going to fast forward through most of this fight. Now, while this is moving right along, I just want to add that if I happen to miss something for a boss, I usually put it in the comments section, so check the comments also if you're watching the video. I'm sorry, not the comments, the description. And then also, if it's a really huge noticeable difference, I will update the video and do a second video on this. Okay, I'm actually going to do an update to the original video. So when you do this boss, first of all, there's 1, 2, and 3 on each of the 3 bosses. Now, we're going to start at the spirit because that's where it says to start. And you'll notice that this boss, you can see him. The others are kind of like almost like a ghost form. So here's the message to turn your back on the spirit. So you want to make sure to be facing away from him. And at that point, he turns into like kind of this more ghosty form, and you go on to the second boss, which is the history one, I believe. So we have a marker for marker 2 there, and you keep moving until the next boss turns to a more solid form from the ghost form, and you go to him and you do him. Now, at this point, there's an interrupt that you're going to need to interrupt the law boss. And after that, you're going to see that the philosophy turns back into a more solid color. Now, it's kind of hard to see this one because there's the purple marker right in front of it, and they kind of get a purplish color when they're the ghostish form. But so go over there. Now, here you've got each of these 3 circles. One person needs to be in each of the purple circles. If you go into the same one twice, you fall asleep, which is not really a big deal, except if you get this message to turn your back on philosophy and you happen to be facing it when you fall asleep, then you could end up being killed. But as long as you're facing away from him, it's okay. I try to rotate which boss I go into. So here again, after philosophy, we go to the history boss. You get the keep moving message for him, and then you move over to law when he's more solid, and you'll do the interrupt on law. And you just kind of repeat that pattern going from one to the other, just in a circular motion as they become more solid. But really the most important thing is when you get the philosophy message, turn your back on the philosophy, which is this one I'm standing in front of now. When it does these purple circles, 1 person in each circle, and when the law one on the left turns solid, you want to make sure that you do the interrupt for him. And that's it for this boss. It's faster again if you do the rotate from philosophy to history to law. And it's easier because everybody just kind of sticks together. Also, it's simpler for tanking because then the tank can kind of stick to one instead of trying to run from one to the other taunting. So that's it for this boss. I'm going to skip through the rest and at least fast forward so that you can get an idea, but we pretty much just repeat and do the same thing, and it makes it fairly simple. Okay, next we want to clear to the third boss. Now for the third boss, he was again pretty simple and straightforward. There is only really one thing with him, but make sure when you are clearing the mobs around him, there's mobs to both sides, kind of in the back of him. So just make sure to clear out everything before actually pulling the boss. Now here we're going to go ahead and pull the boss. And again, you're just going to really avoid some AoEs. There's some line AoEs that go across the board to begin with. Later on in the fight, they're kind of crisscrossed and you have to stand in these little teeny tiny squares. But again, it's just really stand in the squares and kill the boss. There are a couple of the seeds with the green circles around you where you have to stay away from your teammates. You can see one right in the back there. Okay, so moving right along, just continue to DPS the boss and avoid those lines and those circles around them. All right, at this point there's a message that says enter the circles simultaneously to destroy it. You'll have 4 purple circles, one in each corner, and there'll be a certain number of books in there. So if there's only one book, you need 1 person per circle. 2 books, which is later on in the fight, will be 2 people per circle, and then it'll eventually be 4 people per circle. Okay, so I'm going to take this faster, but not quite as fast. You can see here how they're almost like a checkered board when they do those AoE attacks, and you kind of stand in the little squares. Again, you're getting the green living bombs, just keep away from your teammates. And that's really it for the center section. Now coming up, here's another crisscross one, just so you have an idea of what to look for. All right, here's the part with the 4 books. Now I'm just going to fast forward until we kind of figured it out, because this was the first time I ran through it. But since there are 4 books in the circles, you need 4 people to enter the circle to clear the circle. So in the back here, we had a bunch of people all go together. You can see we cleared the circle. And it works really well if you put numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 down, so everybody knows which circles to clear in what order. But here, once we get the appropriate number of people per circle, which here is 4, it will clear each of the circles. So again, if you need to, put the numbers down, but otherwise just kind of run as a group from circle to circle. Now, in this video, we skipped this 2 circle one, but other times I've hit that one. So hopefully this is helpful. You're watching VGO40, and this is VGO Girl. And we will see you next time in World of Kings, and good luck clearing this new dungeon.